Well, you do the mutation crap near the top. It's can you get to play around with stuff.
Yeah, the mutation stuff is fun, but what I'm saying is if you put enough time into the game, people know what the objective best mutations
You'll
are.
get the explosive like minigun.
Yeah.
Dude. Yeah, no, it's pretty fun. I feel like base building is a lot of fun too.
Yeah, I had fun with it. I think it's more fun than Fallout 4.
Yeah. You know,
Capcom?
I don't think you'll regret it.
Is this Okami? Dude, I wasn't expecting anything Capcom at all because Capcom had Exoprimal at Summer Game Fest. There's no way they're making an Okami sequel without Clover Studio, right? Unless this is Onimusha.
These hands familiar? I don't know.
All I can think of right now is Okami or Onimusha.
Designs are cool. That's a cool looking design.
Maybe it's Monster Hunter? They wouldn't do that with the hands.
No.
This must be Onimusha, right? Guys, this has to be an Onimusha, right? I can't believe they would make a new Onimusha before porting the other ones, though. See, it's an action game. I think this is Onimusha. I think they're moving away. I mean, obviously they're not going to do the fixed camera angles again, even though I think it's a lost art. But it's an action game still. Path of the Goddess. I'm thinking it started out as Onimusha and then it eventually just became so different they decided to call it its own thing. That's a Game Pass game? Capcom just randomly... Maybe when it says play at one with Game Pass, does that mean this next thing or were they talking about the thing we just saw?
I think that.
So why would Capcom just randomly announce a Game Pass Day 1 game? I don't think that was mentioned in the ransomware leak either, right? I'm going to go back and look at that. Onimusha, but with a different name. I'm thinking it must have been similar to Sekiro, because Sekiro started out as a Tenchu game, but it eventually became so different, they decided to just call it its own thing, right? I'm thinking the same thing happened there. It must have been an Onimusha game, and then they just kept on coming up with new ideas, making it different. They realized it doesn't really look much like an Onimusha anymore. Let's just call it its own thing. But I'm 100% playing that. Yeah, I'll have to go back and watch it. I'm tempted to go back and watch it right now during the Forza part. But I'll wait. They might upload a better quality trailer. I think it's so funny. Capcom has all this stuff coming out, and then they just randomly announce this extra thing that's Game Pass exclusive, but it looks AAA. You know, I'm not surprised about Exoprimal being Game Pass. After seeing how few people were playing the open beta test, I'm not surprised that game's going to Game Pass, right? But that looks like a single player thing. I don't think that needs to be a Game Pass game like Exoprimal does. Okay, so now I am rewatching the Path of the Goddess trailer from the Xbox Game Showcase. What's weird is that looking at it on GameSpot, the title is Kunitsu-Gami : Path of the Goddess, as if Path of the Goddess is just a subtitle. I'll have to look at the title again. Yeah, because it looks as if there's some kind of big kanji, and then underneath the kanji is Path of the Goddess. So I guess the kanji there is saying Kunitsu-Gami. Which may or may not get recognized by a lot of people. I think a lot of people are probably just going to refer to it as Path of the Goddess. But let's see, because this was definitely the biggest surprise. And I'm watching it at 1080p 60 FPS now. Immediately when it opens, it sounds like, I know it's, you know, like a typical sound you would hear at like a Japanese like Shinto shrine or something. All right, what actually is making that sound at the start?
Like bells.
Yeah, like bells. I just kind of associate it
with Sekiro.
Yeah, you hear it a lot in Japanese stuff, but I don't know if I actually ever thought about what's making that sound. But anyways, my point is I know that's a thing, but still, it immediately invokes feelings of either Okami or Onimusha. So the first shot is inside of some kind of shrine. See, this is what was making me think of Okami. The little black things flying around. And then it drops the Capcom logo when you see the Torii gate. Plus all these crazy hands. So I was so convinced this had to have either been... At first I was thinking Okami because of the black swirly stuff flying around. But I was thinking, okay, there's no way they're making... Well, when I say a sequel to Okami, I know that there's Okami Den on the DS, so I'm not forgetting that game. But there's no way they'd be making a sequel to Okami or Okami Den without Clover Studio, right? Although I'd have to go back and check because I don't know if Clover Studio made Okami Den. You guys can let me know in the comments on that one. So at this point, I was thinking, okay, it's Onimusha for sure, right? Because they ported the first Onimusha, and it seemed as if they were doing that to increase brand recognizability. But then they just stopped. They didn't port any of the other Onimusha games, even though I was so ready for that. I like the color palette on a lot of these things.
Yeah, the colors are really nice.
The hand stopped moving as soon as the sun rose there. And then we keep seeing these kaleidoscopic transitions. This wasn't the playable character, right? The Shrine Maiden. Was it? Okay, yeah, it's the guy that jumps in front of her. Okay. This really does seem like an Onimusha character, though. But the helmet made me think maybe it's some kind of Monster Hunter thing. But then I thought back, they wouldn't have all those hands for Monster Hunter, right? But I know that Monster Hunter Rise is very Japanese themed, which is why I was thinking that, seeing the helmet. Yeah, aside from the helmet covering the face, this seems like an Onimusha character. I wonder what kind of mechanic this is when he stabs the sword into the ground and starts running with it. It's almost as if it's clearing a path or something. The camera's very pulled back here, interestingly. See, this seems like some kind of... Here, it looks like he's sort of consecrating the place or, like, purifying people. But it looks as if the place gets darker when he stabs the sword into the ground here, right? But maybe it was already there and you just didn't see it and it revealed itself when he stabbed it. I'm thinking that's probably it, right? Typically, when you have these Shinto-type settings... you need to consecrate the land, you know, purify the stuff. Get the evil spirits out of it. So I'm thinking that's what's happening here. So I'm thinking he revealed all of this, all of these dark, nasty hands on the ground here. And he's kind of clearing a path. And then it must be like freeing someone from some kind of corruption here. But then it's showing these other characters with the masks. Huh. These characters here, see that guy with a bow and this guy with the pole arm, that's making me think of maybe not necessarily other playable characters, but partners that you can get and you can do team combos with them because otherwise, why else would they have such uniquely different weapons? Yeah, and this guy has a hatchet, right? I don't think, this doesn't strike me as an RPG in which you can use different weapons, you know, like Neo. Capcom... You know, outside of Dragon's Dogma, Capcom doesn't typically do that. This is striking me as much more of a typical action game. I really like these kaleidoscopic transitions. What do you think of the art design here? After the second,
door opens up.
Yeah, the door opens up and it's like his rib cage opening up.
Pretty dope.
I really like the color.
The color's really cool.
Yeah, again, I really like the color palette here. Definitely stands out amongst a lot of the things at the Xbox showcase, and so much of it is just, gray.
Yeah. It looks like a Sinski kind of thing. Like the no mouth and or the like no eyes or whatever.
Yeah, I really like the enemy designs. I feel like the enemy designs could have very easily just been generic, ghoulish monster things, but because it's Capcom and Capcom has some of the best artists ever, you can tell that it has the special sauce to it. These really do seem like they could be Onimusha enemies. These obviously must be the low-tier enemies that you fight in the game. Look at them crawling around the Torii Gate like that. I think it's really hard to tell what the gameplay loop is in this game because the environments don't really look like a typical action game environment at all. It doesn't look like linear pathway into an arena, because this looks so weirdly cluttered and congested right here. I think this is the first time we see, we're about to see the combat. And that looks like some kind of higher priority enemy, maybe buffing the little guys or something. And do we not get to see very much of that guy? Yeah, I feel like I'd have to see a better screenshot of this enemy design to have a real opinion on it, but it looks crazy there. It's almost as if there's a little guy sitting on top of the main guy's head, but I'm pretty sure this is all one enemy here. The red and turquoise is reminding me a lot of the Devil May Cry 5 art, at least the logo. But, Capcom loves the red and blue. Some kind of wraith enemy. Yeah, and then this guy's a bigger version of the smaller ones. Again, the red and blue showing up. Capcom loves red and blue. But don't these environments seem weirdly congested for an action game?
Yeah, it seems like lots going on.
Yeah, because typically in action games, like Devil May Cry, things like that, you have, pretty linear hallway-esque level design, and then it goes into a more open arena, and you're locked into the arena with fights, and then you beat everyone in there, and then you can move on to the next sort of hallway. That's typically how these action games are designed, but it's just so cluttered here. Also, look at the texture on the tongue there. That looks pretty neat. Okay, so here's the first time we see actual gameplay. And the first thing that makes this seem not so much like an Onimusha game is how pulled back the camera is. Obviously, other Onimusha games, I haven't played all the Onimusha games, I've only played the first one. But at least the first one is fixed camera angles, right? Because Onimusha was originally supposed to be Resident Evil 4, but it ended up becoming its own thing, similar to DMC 1. So if they were to make a new Onimusha, I wouldn't expect it to be fixed camera angles. But still, I'm kind of glad that this isn't an Onimusha game. I'm glad that they're not calling it an Onimusha game, because if a new Onimusha game were to be made, I would kind of wish for it to have more grounded combat. And by grounded combat, I don't mean, realistic enemies and stuff. I would want crazy monster enemies like this still. My point is, I think an Onimusha game should have grounded combat in the sense of the camera being kind of close so it feels more personal, and you're not doing crazy air combos, you're not launching enemies into the air and doing stuff like that. Because I think the combat, at least in the first Onimusha, it felt very one-on-one. It felt very personal, like you were literally fighting against these monsters for your life. Because, it was originally supposed to be Resident Evil 4, so it was supposed to have that survival horror element. So it felt like a survival horror game, but the main character happened to be trained with sword combat, and so that's the only thing that made it feel more like an action game than a horror game, just because the main character was good with a sword. But otherwise, there was still that weirdly personal element to all the combat, which I liked in the first Onimusha. But this looks more like straight up Devil May Cry, which I'm also a fan of, but I wouldn't want that for Onimusha, so I'm actually kind of glad that they're calling it something else, and maybe that's why they ended up calling it something else in the first place. But do we see any actual air combos here? I don't know if we do. We see a lot of dodging going on. Okay, look, yeah, see, he does have a party. I don't know if you're watching the trailer by itself.
Yeah, they're like the little villagers, I think.
Yeah,
saved,
it's almost like Pikmin, because he's doing some kind of ring. Like how you can whistle the Pikmin. But I think it might be some kind of buff. This isn't striking me as multiplayer, though. This is striking me as almost somewhat real-time strategy. Like an action game with some real-time strategy elements in terms of being able to kind of recruit these other people to help you. Because I think they might be color-coded with the classes. Yeah, so the bowmen look like they were blue. And then the guy with the axe is wearing yellow. And then the polearm user is maybe teal, maybe gray, something like that. But anyways, my point is, it looks as if you can make different party compositions, and you can experiment with that. So I'm thinking it's an action game with some RTS elements. So in that case, I'm definitely glad they're not calling it Onimusha, because I don't think Onimusha should be an RTS game by any means. But with this being a new IP, I'm all for it.
Maybe the jersey saved in the beginning.
Yeah, I think it is. You have to go around and sort of like recruit / save these villagers, and then some of them might join your side, and then you have more options to change around your composition. I wonder if they can actually die permanently, though. Kind of like an actual tactics game with permadeath. Right? Like, you know how your Pikmin can die in Pikmin? Maybe you'll get low on bowmen, and then you have to go get some more bowmen. Yeah, this is really cool. Some of this is kind of reminding me of Karas as well, but I know Karas was super Shinto inspired, so that's not that creative of a comparison. But just in terms of the movement with the sword. Yeah, and again, these environments look really small and congested. So I'm wondering what the progression is. And if you're not just yourself, but with a party of people going through these hallways, it's almost as if you're just going to be bulldozing your way through this area. I think all the people with masks are the people you can recruit. Yeah, because again, we see kind of a color coding thing going on here with the people with the masks. I think that's a hatchet user, that's a bow user, and this is a polearm user. And there's the title drop. So again, I think this kanji is Kunitsu-Gami, but people are probably just going to refer to it as Path of the Goddess. We will see. I'm wondering if they considered just simply calling it Path of the Goddess for the Western release. But anyways, do you have anything else to say about that? Because I think that's the most I can.
No story was shown in the trailer, which I think is...
I like that because, you know, so many of the trailers at the Xbox Game Showcase were CG trailers, just talking about story, not showing actual gameplay. But with Capcom, you know, it's always about the gameplay first, story second.
Yeah.
Which is why I love Capcom games so much, because you can always tell that they design it with the gameplay in mind first. So anyways, thanks for watching, everyone. I will be posting this as its own video since this was the highlight for me, but I will be including a link in the comments for an unlisted posting of the entire reaction if you want to see a reaction to the whole thing, including all the Starfield stuff and all that. So thanks again, everyone, and I will see you all later. So bye for now.